Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Moving Markets. My name is Jeffrey Dunyon, owner of Safe Option Strategies. Um, Ugly day in the market. What can I say? Today is March the 7th, Thursday. We're starting this presentation a little less than an hour after the open of the market. A couple of times already, the Dow has dipped below or dipped deeper than a 300-point loss. Currently down 285, NASDAQ down 83, S&P down 27. Each one of those indexes down close to 1%. In the case of the Dow and the NASDAQ, a little bit more than 1%. S&P 500, a little bit less than 1%. Today's sell-off is pretty much focused and single-minded, and for lack of a better way to describe it. The ECB, the European Central Bank, which is kind of, forgive me if this is not a perfect comparison. It's the Fed of the European Union. You've got the conglomerate of countries that make up the European Union, the great, spectacular, successful experiment that Great Britain is trying so hard to get out of with their Brexit deal. The European Central Bank is their equivalent to our Fed. They set interest rates. They have lending power. They talk about loaning money to all the countries that are trying a form of socialism over there that is failing miserably. I don't think you can find a European country that is on solid footing financially. There have been times when Germany has kind of emerged with high growth numbers, high GDP, and appears to be getting into some solid financial footing. And then it fades away quickly. You've got countries like Italy that are now giving people a guaranteed income for everybody, courtesy of high taxes and money that they're borrowing and money that they don't have. It's just, these experiments into socialism are such a failure. And this notion that socialism can fix anything is such a pipe dream. I may talk about that a little bit later, but let's talk about what the ECB did, the European Central Bank. So they came out with their meeting, just like we have with the Fed every few months, where they made a decision on whether or not they would have rate hikes. Sorry, I keep looking over here to my left. So I'm seeing on my streaming quotes, how much more damage might be done. By the way, I had somebody, a couple of fun things. Number one, I've had several accusations of being too political in this discussion. So this presentation, this 15 or 20 minutes that I'm doing each day about what is moving the markets, we're putting this on the main Safe Option Strategies website that anybody has access to, which is really just an introduction site to hopefully get people interested in what we do and the type of option strategies and trading strategies that we teach. I don't want to turn this into just a plug for that because there's enough information on the website if you want to explore it on what we do and how we do it and how it works. This is just for people's entertainment. This is to see if you can get some sense of one guy's opinion on why things are moving the way they're moving. And, I want it to be entertaining for people. I want people to have fun with it. I don't mind if people have strong differences than I do in political opinions. I can't not get political in this. In the education that we provide and the education that we teach people at Safe Option Strategies, I don't get overly political. I don't care if you're liberal, if you're conservative, if you're Democrat, if you're Republican, if you're libertarian, if you're what else is there? Independent. I don't care. I want to make money. I want to help you make money. That's the bottom line. That's the goal is to make money and help people make money in the stock market. And I don't care about your politics. And I've got good friends who disagree with me so severely on political things. I mean, we are polar opposites on politics, and we're good friends. We can hang out. We can do stuff together. So it's not my goal to be offensive, but in this presentation, this is fun for me. I'm having a good time with this, and I'm not going to hold back on what my politics are. But I bring that up because I had two interesting comments that came that were emailed directly. They weren't even posted on the what do you call that? The comments that people can make when they find this on our YouTube channel. These weren't posted there. These were emails that were sent directly to me. And one of them said, "What were you doing in a white shirt and tie yesterday?" So, the last few days that I've done this, I've been pretty casual. I had on my Dodger attire a couple of days ago, and then I think the Dodgers lost pretty. It's spring training, so it doesn't matter. But the Dodgers lost yesterday. Anyway, uh, and then I'm obviously I'm very casual today. I'll be honest. When I'm done with this today, I'm heading over to the fitness center. I'm going to go get on a treadmill and try and get some exercise and try and stay healthy and stay in shape. But yesterday I was in a white shirt and a tie. I was getting ready to go somewhere and I was doing this presentation. So one of the messages I got is, what in the world were you doing in a suit and tie? You're the owner of the company and you don't have to dress that way. Well, every now and then I can clean up and dress up a little bit. And my wife tells me that I clean up okay. But then I had an email come in and just a kind of a tongue lashing in print. Someone thought I was way too political, and I just smiled and chuckled. I'm like, yeah, this is my program. You can listen if you want. You don't have to listen if you don't want. Like I said, this is fun for me, and I hope nobody takes too much offense to things. If my political opinion is so severely different than your political opinion, I'll tell you, all joking aside, one of the things that this country needs, and the world needs this, quite honestly, but one of the things that this country needs right now is the ability to have different political opinions and not be enemies over it. And unfortunately, that doesn't exist nearly enough. I have different opinions on things with a lot of people in my life. My wife, who is my best friend in the world, she's my reason for living. She's my reason for doing what I do. I love her, and we don't agree on everything. We have differences of opinions. We have strong differences of opinions on things. We've raised 4 kids who I think are all fantastic kids. They're all doing really good things. My oldest son, working on a degree in international business, is one of the smartest human beings I've ever met in my entire life. He's my kid, and he shames me in terms of just how smart he is and how knowledgeable he is. I've got a daughter who married a great guy who's in medical school out on the East Coast. They're figuring out marriage, and they're figuring out being on their own, and they're going through some of the growing pains of that, but they're great people. I'm so proud of them. I've got a daughter that graduated high school last year. She's making it on her own. She's working. She recently got a professional certification that she worked hard for. Absolutely fantastic. And my youngest boy is in high school. He's a sophomore. I don't know if my kids will listen to this or not, but I'll be in trouble if they do. Maybe he might be smarter than his older brother. I mean, he's absolutely a brilliant kid. We've raised what I believe are some great kids that are going to contribute so much to their communities and to society and to the world. And my wife and I don't agree on parenting things half the time. I mean, we bring strengths into the situations that we encounter, and we both have weaknesses, and sometimes we're more willing than other times to admit those weaknesses. And the reason I'm going off on this tangent, the reason I'm telling you all this, is because we love each other very much. We're committed to each other. I believe we have a strong marriage, and we are best friends. That needs to exist throughout this country. That needs to exist throughout our society. I probably am part of the problem more than I'm part of the solution. Not because I hate people that have a different political opinion than me, but because I go off sometimes and say things that are probably offensive to people, and maybe I don't think enough about the sensitivity. But I could do an entire show. I could do 3 if these presentations I do like this, or these I don't know what they're called, these live conversations I do like this. If they average 20 to 25 minutes, I could string together 10 of them on talking about the problems that exist with people who get offended. You cannot get offended unless you choose to get offended. Look, that's just the simple fact of the matter. You can only be offended if you choose to be offended. Someone could walk into my office right now. They would be met with heavy resistance if they did this, but someone could walk into my office right now. They could call me a string of names. They could insult my mother. They could insult my wife and kids. They could say bad things about me. They could just go off, and it's still my choice whether or not I get offended at that. So people have got to people have got to, number one, you got to quit getting offended by every little thing that comes out of every person's mouth. People can have a difference of opinion than what you have. And if the ad hominem attacks would start, you don't, for my friends, I was gonna steal a Rush Limbaugh thing and say my liberal friends, but I was gonna do it in a very insulting way. See, that's kind of, but that was kind of the point, kind of the joke that I was trying to make. But for people that may not know what an ad hominem attack is, because look, a lot of people hear that comment and they don't really know what it means, or they hear the term and don't really know what it means. An ad hominem attack is when you have a difference of opinion, or you want to punch holes in someone's argument, but you do it by insulting the person. Instead of attacking the argument, or not even attacking it, instead of addressing the argument, you attack the person. You're wrong because you're an idiot. No, you're not wrong because you're an idiot. You may be wrong because you have some idiotic ideas. You may be wrong because I can point out the illogic of what you're saying. It may be that you're not wrong and I'm not wrong, and you're not right and I'm not right. We're just different on our opinion. But when you attack the individual, when you say that doesn't make sense because you're stupid, that's and I do that. I do that. I try and do it in jest. I try and do it to be funny. But anyway, I'm way off subject here. The reason I have you not know? Look, if you've watched all the episodes I've done of moving markets, and you haven't figured out that I get off on tangents yet, well, you bet you probably have figured it out now. The reason I was going in this direction with this is you've got, I started by talking about all these countries that are practicing socialism or some form of socialism and failing so miserably. And yet there's this fraud being perpetrated on people who are just, okay, I could be mean and throw out the ad hominem attack and say that they're just simply unintelligent. I'm going to say that they're ignorant, and I mean that in the literal definition of ignorant. They are uninformed. They are uneducated on the subject. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent people. It means they're ignorant as to what socialism is and how socialism works. And so you've got these European countries that are, many of them practicing some form of socialism or trying to incorporate some very socialistic ideas and ideals into their society, and it's failing miserably. You cannot point to any instance of socialism that has succeeded. And before you go to Switzerland and people try and point to Sweden and Finland and some of these other places and say, oh, there's examples of socialism at work. No, those are not examples of socialism at work. Those are democratic countries that have robust capitalism at work. And because their capitalism is so unrestrained, they have fewer regulations than we have here in the United States. They have fewer politicians getting in the way of capitalism. And because of that, capitalism is so successful that they have the luxury of creating some social programs that are showing some forms of success. Now, I would argue that a lot of these social programs that are pointed to as being successful are very unsuccessful in a couple of senses. I don't care if I'm off subject. I'm going to finish this thought right here. And if you want to hear what's moving the markets, you'll have to wait to get to it and let me finish this. Here's the thing. You look at a country like Sweden. Number one, they have about less than 5% of the population of the U.S. They do have a robust capitalist economy at work there. They get a lot of money from foreign investment and from their banking system that charges a lot of money to keep people's money private. And as a result of that, they offer, universal health care. Everybody there has, I hate to use the word free health care because it's not free. Somebody somewhere pays for it. Every time you hear something is free, just, find a wall that won't kill you and go run your head into it. Make sure it's sheetrock or something instead of a solid concrete wall. I don't want you to do major physical damage, but you need to rock something in your brain a little bit. If you believe it when you hear that healthcare is free or college is free or something is free, somebody somewhere is paying for it. It's not free. Okay. That's a side note. Anyway, back on subject. These countries have this healthcare that people receive just by virtue of being in that country. But it's crappy healthcare. So on the one hand, you can say that it is somewhat successful in the sense of they're managing to pay for it. It's not bankrupting their country, although there's places where it is bankrupting their country. But you can talk about how it's succeeding on the level of it's available to people, but people are waiting horrific amounts of times to get procedures. The quality of the healthcare is not worth crap. Canada gets pointed to sometimes as having, this universal healthcare for everybody. Nobody has to pay for it. Trust me, it's being paid for. But you got people in Canada, anyone that has the ability financially to do so is getting the hell out of Canada and coming to the United States to get the surgeries that they need and to get the medical treatment that they need for things. No one is running from other countries to Canada for procedures. That would be like running to England for dental care. I mean, come on. It's just, now everyone from England is offended now, right? Okay. Anyway. So, you've got these countries that are in trouble over there economically, but they keep going back to this socialistic garbage and this socialistic stuff. So how does all this tie into what's moving the markets today? The European Central Bank basically recognizes that their economy is, I'm not going to say it's in major trouble, but it's not growing like it should. It's probably, if you take the European Union as a whole, you don't focus in on any one European country, but you take the European Union as a whole, their economic outlook is probably the weakest, or one of the weakest in the world right now. I'm not going to say it's the weakest because you've got places like Venezuela that could, probably argument be made that's a little bit worse. That was a failed attempt at humor as well. But, so they make the announcement just like Jerome Powell did a couple months back here that they're going to hold interest rates where they're at. And he could have, what's his name? That's the guy that was talking. I'm forgetting his name now. Draghi. Mario Draghi. Yeah, he's the guy. So he's Mario Draghi. You want to blame someone for the markets being down today? Blame Mario Draghi. So anyway, he doesn't stop by saying, because of what's going on, we're gonna hold interest rates. We're not gonna raise it, and we're gonna loan some money to countries that need it, and we're gonna free up some money to loan to countries, and we're gonna make it a little bit cheaper, and so all of that had futures pointing up. And then, like a lot of people in positions like this, and I would argue that back in October, Jerome Powell made this same mistake. But I'll give Jerome Powell some credit. He's righted the ship. He's figured out how impactful his comments can be on the market, and he's fixed it. He's been smarter. He's been more measured in his commentary since October, when he really was the catalyst to that big fourth quarter slide. Draghi's been doing this long enough that this wasn't a misstep on his part. This wasn't him learning his position or getting comfortable with position. This is him just being a typical elitist, arrogant type of person who loves the sound of his own voice, always believes he's the smartest person in the world, and doesn't know when to shut up. Just honestly doesn't know when to shut up. So instead of ending it at, we're going to hold off on doing this, we're going to hold off on raising interest rates. I think he might have even hinted or speculated a little bit at lowering some interest rates. But then he went on to make this comment: the persistence of uncertainties related to geopolitical factors, the threat of protectionism and vulnerabilities in emerging markets appears to be leaving marks on economic sentiment. Okay. Let me break that down for you. We're anti-Trump. We don't like the fact that he wants a level playing field in all of the trade that is going on. We don't like the turmoil that we believe he is the cause of. And that's the reason that market sentiment is down. And then he went on to say that they are downgrading their forecast for the European Union. So that's the real headline is the ECB slashes its growth forecast, and then it warns of this threat of protectionism. Protectionism is a not so veiled way of saying we don't like the fact that the United States is working on their own self-interest right now. We don't like the fact that the U.S. is saying America first. We can't stand the fact that Donald Trump has a campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." America and America's economy is the envy of the world. Make no mistake about it. And if you think otherwise, your head is in the sand. You're ignoring facts. You are working without logic. You are working on pure emotion. You are working on hatred of another political party. You are working on hatred of our president. If you don't believe that our economy is the envy of the world, there isn't a single country in existence that wouldn't love to have our economy and our freedoms. And it's why we have immigration crisis at the southern border. It's why we have people trying to get here in mass. It's why people leave other countries to come here and pay more, pay for healthcare. We are the envy of the world. I don't care if you like it or don't like it. It is a fact. And so when Draghi makes these comments about the threat of protectionism, it is his way of saying, we don't like the fact that your current political administration is interested in protecting what you have. We want bigger pieces of it ourselves. We want to bring the U.S. down instead of elevating ourselves to what you have. Instead of figuring out what's working in America and making it work here, we want to go the opposite direction, and we want to drag America down and convince you of doing things our way so that then when we measure up to you, we look better. It's such a ridiculous it's such an idiotic way of going about things. And what's interesting is that here in the US, we have a larger and larger group of people all the time that are trying to do they're trying to do the same thing, but from the opposite side of the equation. They're saying, yeah, let's bring America down so that people aren't jealous of us. Let's bring ourselves down so that you like us because we're now on your level. It's like taking the I don't know, I'm reaching now. It's like taking the best athlete on a team and saying, if you would just slow down when you're running, we would all look better. Would you please do that for us? And that athlete should rightfully say, why don't you work harder and catch up to me if I'm running faster than you? Think about that. Think about the illogic of saying, we would like you more if you wouldn't excel. And look, probably everyone at some point in time or another has been a little bit guilty of this. You think back to high school and junior high. You had that one know-it-all in the classroom, and didn't you wish that they were just not as smart so that you would look better? Instead of working harder and getting up on their level, oftentimes we'd fit into that, except for the few of you that were that class genius. Oftentimes we would sit back and think, God, if they weren't getting this 95% on this test that's being graded on a curve, if instead they were getting a 65, then my 57 would look pretty darn good. Instead, they're getting a 95 and my 57 is an F. I mean, it's a little bit of it is human nature, but we've got to be better than that. We have to figure out a way to be better than that and say, if there's anyone out there that's capable of getting a 95%, that is proof that it can be done. And we should do it. We should strive for that. We should try and be excellent like they are. Look, we are an excellent country. There is a thing such as, American exceptionalism exists. And it's under greater attack from our own country and from the morons in our own country than anywhere else. Okay, so to the sweet, lovely individual who sent me the email yesterday and said that I'm too political, get over it. Go watch somebody else's presentation. So let's go first full circle now. The Dow is still down 271. I've been talking for almost 25 minutes. The Dow is still down 270. NASDAQ down 76. S&P down 23. We are off the session highs, but I'm telling you, there's a good chance, less than an hour and 45 minutes into trading today, there is a good chance that at some point in time, computer trading takes over. I'm talking about the pre-programmed levels of support where people have already set up orders saying, if a stock gets to this level, then sell it off. If a stock gets to this level, then buy it. This 260, 270 points down right now could easily, before the day is over, slide into a 400, 450 points down on the markets. The danger that we have going on right now, the thing that you've got to be really careful of right now is taking a measured approach at buying this dip. I think this is going to be a very good dip to buy. I really believe that. I'm not saying that because I have enough influence to swing enough people to make that decision. I'm saying that because as of today's move down, we've already broken, and forgive me, I know I'm looking off to my other screen again. We've already broken a level of support that we thought might hold once we got over. We briefly got over 26,000. That was a very key spot for the market. This is the Dow Jones I'm speaking of. We got over 26,000. That was a very key level that we felt like we needed to get above, and that if we did, we could continue back up to those all-time highs up above 27 and towards 28,000. We're turning the corner now, and you've got today's move down creates a break below the 50 mark on the relative strength index. The 5 and 20-day moving average are on the verge of crossing over to the bearish side. That's listen, straight up, that is not a good thing. There's just nothing good about that. If that breaks, you could see potentially, I don't think we're going to go back to those December lows that we hit, but it's absolutely possible that the markets pull back maybe to 24, the Dow, maybe 24,000, 24.5. But one of the most key levels that I am looking at right now is the 200-day moving average. If you had a chart of the Dow Jones up and you had a 200-day moving average on it, and I'll tell you what, if you're seeing right over here to my left, if you're seeing a screen on top of this that has the 200-day moving average, then I've gotten more clever and figured out a way to put this. If you're watching this and you don't see that screen, it means that I have failed and I'm still working on figuring out how to insert into one of these presentations, one of these little screens. But if you see that screen right there, that means I figured out how to put it. But if you look at where this 200-day moving average is on the Dow, and I've got it highlighted there if you're seeing it, that's a pretty flat line over the last 6 months, in spite of the peak that we had back at the beginning of October, the major dip we had down to the bottom of December, and the steep climb we've had back up to a week ago. If we continue to drop for another couple of days, but that 200-day moving average holds, and the 5-day moving average, or the value of the Dow does not dip below that 200-day moving average, we're going to be fine. If that breaks, there's a chance we're going to go back down to the low 20,000s, the 22, 23,000 mark. So be careful how quick you're willing to buy this dip. I would say if you get a couple of days in a row that if we get down to that 200-day moving average and you get a couple of days in a row that it holds, if that happens, then I would say buy this dip. If that doesn't happen, you've got to hold off. You've got to stay hedged. You've got to stay somewhat bearish on this market, at least short term. All right. That wraps it up. That's what's moving the markets. That's what's to do about it. Listen, tomorrow we are going to talk about the numbers that come out for American Outdoor Brands Corporation. If you have no interest in that stock, it's not going to be of interest to you, but that is a stock that I've traded since, for a long time. I've traded that stock. It is American Outdoor Brands Corporation is the parent company of Smith & Wesson. I have an amount of money invested in that company. A number of my students have money invested in that company. So we're going to be very interested in looking to see what happens with American Outdoor Brands Corporation. They report today after the market closes. So tomorrow morning we'll have a feel for what's going on there. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks. Bye.